Go Green.
Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Ahman Green, Gourmet Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome to Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. We are live on YouTube, Rumble, X, here to talk some Packers, talk some NFL draft. I'm joined by Jacob up in Wisconsin and going to dive into a little bit of everything today, man. Hopefully everybody's having an awesome morning as you're, I'm sure, getting ready for church. Don't be listening to this in the back of the church, okay? Pay attention if you are in the Lord's house this morning. But thanks to everybody who's joining us here. I know Joyce Martha said, grab your coffee and get ready to go, Jacob. All right, as a wise man once said up there in Chicago, and not so wise man, I think we would agree.
Get ready to go. Had to do it. How you feeling today, Clayton? Feeling all right?
I'm doing good, man. I'm feeling pretty good. The weather's beautiful. Going to be about 75 down here, so we're going to get out and cut some firewood and burn a little brush pile, just redneck stuff. What about you, man? You all right?
Yeah, that sounds good. It's like mid 40s right now. Yeah. Got the dog out this morning already. Did a bunch of stuff in the garage. Did some spring cleaning. I'm feeling pretty good, man.
Heck yeah, man. It is. There's nothing better than this time of year when we were trying to shop around. Hey, what are we gonna pack to the draft, right? We don't know what the weather's going to be. It could be snowing. It could be 60 degrees, right? So, I told Mandy, I said, these last couple of days have been somewhere in the 50s, kind of chilly, 50s, 60s, and getting into the low 70s. So it'll probably be around that spot. So that's what we're kind of expecting. I think there'd be nothing better, though, than a late snowstorm for the draft at Lambeau Field. I mean, just dump it down, man, buckets. You know what I'm saying? I think that would be so fitting. But Drew said they actually got snow in Green Bay right now. So there you go. All right. Let's continue the talk we had last night. Actually, we got Mark84 said something here. Good morning. We somehow need to draft Matthew Golden and Mike Green. What would be better than drafting Green and Gold when the draft is in Green Bay? Hey, listen, I'm all right with Matthew Golden. Mike Green is a stud on the field. There's no two ways about it. It's just the personal issues. Are they real or not? Are they legit? He's in the 14 spot on our board. So the only way you could land both of them, I feel like, Martin, I could be completely off here, is if Mike Green were to fall to 23 and then somehow, some way Matthew Golden fell to 54, unless you put a package together, trade it up, and you ended up with 2 first-round picks. I don't see that happening. Do you, Jacob?
No. But I do see maybe one scenario where if Green falls so drastically that maybe there's a chance where Goody can come up like in the second or something like that after they maybe would have went that way with Golden. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Matthew Golden, to be honest. I've went up and down with him. Mm-hmm. I mean, the dude's a burner, but he doesn't quite have the size I like. I think the drop rate was quite a lot more than I would like, and then I just don't see a lot of production or the PFF grades to really justify the fact that he be ahead of a guy like a Higgins, or I mean even a lot of the other guys that have a little more size and credentials to them. But that's just my opinion. I'm just a guy in a cool shirt, what do I know?
What do you know? We'll have Tim joining us in a minute. Tim, you take your time, buddy. I know you're over rushing and scrambling. You're good, bro.
He's combing his hair. He's combing his hair
right now. All right, so since you brought it up, watch this. Watch how quick he appears here in a second. Now, let's talk about Jaden Higgins. All right. I put this little article together here over on
there he is.
Yeah, look at that. You say Jaden Higgins. You ain't even got to say it 3 times. You say it once, and Tim pops up. I actually was downstairs the other night washing the dishes and told Mandy, I'm like, yeah, they got this big receiver named Jaden Higgins. Stood out the Senior Bowl. Tim poked his head around the corner and was like, hey.
You talking about you got some Higgins over there?
So y'all got any of them Jaden Higgins over there?
So obviously the little exercises we've been doing with the athletic threshold, we're starting to really narrow it down now. I started very vague with the searches and going, hey, look, who do you think would fit that threshold? Who could possibly fit that threshold? And there's a handful of names that come up just kind of to pique our interest. And I did say try to remove some of the bigger name players. So now we're getting down to, all right, focused on just the combine and just the pro days. Forget what you've heard about the 40. Forget all these things right now. You're going to probably see his 4.440 on this article because that was reported from a event. I think it was either a combine or a pro day, right? And again, whether it's 4.4 or 4.5 makes no difference to me. Now the Packers do like receivers that are less than 4.5, obviously, but with someone that kind of size, I can't imagine they would scoff too much at it. But I said, does Jaden Higgins check enough boxes for Brian Gutekunst? All right. And again, we're not going to read the entire article. We'll give you an idea of what's in it. Here it says the Packers athletic blueprint. Under Gutekunst since 2018, the Packers have favored wide receivers with specific physical traits. Height, 6 foot, often paired with length, right? Weight of 200 plus pounds. 40-yard dash of 4.5 seconds or under, although 4.45 is preferred. Vertical jump of 36 inches at least. Broad jump, 10 foot, and then relative athletic score of 8 plus. Early picks often or 9 plus. Okay, so it says these standards flex occasionally with Reed. 5'11" was an exception, but they outline the Packers' ideal for receivers who can stretch the field and block in the run game. He can block, right? So here is Higgins. It says Higgins tested at the 2025 NFL Combine and posted strong numbers in key drills. Here's the official Combine data as of March 23rd, all right? And it was posted on X by MathBomb and at NFL_DF, all right? Height, 6'4" is what they got him listed now. Now, you boys have been saying 6'5", right? And that was what was reported for a long time. This is, if I'm understanding correctly, 6'4" was what he measured in at the Combine, right? Is that correct? What y'all know?
I've got him at 6'4", 215.
6'4", 215. Got it. And here it's got him at 214. So he obviously we're splitting hairs there, right? It's fine. He's over 200 pounds. That's all that really matters. So 40-yard dash, they've got it as 4.47, as we mentioned last night. Some people have it as 4.53, 4.55, and 4.57. That's something that obviously would not check the box, seeing that the Packers prefer someone under 4.4. Let me get y'all's take on that. How do you feel about receivers? The difference between a 4.55 and a 4.47, is that like astronomical to you? Do you think that's a deal breaker for you if you were the GM, or maybe do you think Goody's being a little picky if that is the case?
Well, first of all, we got to thank Buckets Goldenberg for the content here. That we really appreciate the author of the article. Just did a spontaneously great job at just putting this all together, considering Mr. Goldenberg's been out of the loop for a while. So this is really good to see Buckets Goldenberg with the coverage here. But no, to answer your question, I'm not tripping over 100th here or there of a second on a 40 time. I think Jacob said this plenty of times, and I agree with him. There's a big difference with how you run in a straight line in your underwear when someone's standing there with a stopwatch versus how you run a route tree and, catch the football and turn up field and score a touchdown. Those are the things we're really looking for. So to me, I'm not focused on the intricacies of a 40 time. I don't know. What do you think, Jacob?
Quickly, I just would ask the chat, somebody refresh my memory as to what Devontae Adams' 40 time was. And then Mike Evans' 40 time, and just different receivers kind of like that, I'm not saying that this guy is Adams or Mike Evans or anybody like that, but I'm just saying, even it's a 4.47, I still believe he's got 4.47 speed. When you watch him on film, he does have bursts where, call it adrenaline or just game speed, whatever it is. I think he has an ability to kick into that high gear. But even if he doesn't, the wide receiver room, if he's running 4.5, I mean, even some of these guys that run 4.6, if you're a technician with the routes you run, the speed is obviously going to be more beneficial if you have it. But I think you can make, look at that vert. Like, look at the broad. The guy is an absolute explosive monster. And I don't think that, like Tim said, maybe a 5/10 or even a 10th, or even a full second is going to make a difference as to when you have that much athletic ability. Get the ball anywhere near him, he just seems like he's going to be grabbing it, snatching it out of the air.
And something that Greg Cosell has harped on a lot is stride length. Sometimes stride length doesn't necessarily show up, right? as Coach Lynn said, both were 4.5s. That's correct. I've actually got Devontae Adams's profile pulled up here. So he ran a 4.56 40-yard dash. He was 6'1", 212 pounds, a 4.56 40 with a vertical jump of 39.5 inches and a broad jump of 10'3". So 39.5 was his vert. And just a half a. So Jaden, think about that with Devontae, 6'1" as opposed to 6'4", and he out jumped Jaden Higgins. That's crazy to think about. My man had some ups for sure. Broad jump 10'9", arm length 33 1/8 of an inch, hand size 9 1/8 inches, and a wingspan that was untested is what it says. It says Higgins skipped the agility test, but measuring up, here's what we got. Okay. You got, obviously he checks the box with 6 foot, 200 pounds, 4.5 40. That's the one that's kind of in the air, right? It says that he checks the box here, but we don't know if he's actually going to be over 4.5. And keep in mind, Devontae Adams was drafted by Ted Thompson, correct? So that's, Ted's threshold might have been a little bit different than Goody, so you do have to take that in consideration as well, although they did come from that same lineage in terms of front office personnel. Broad jump of 10 foot. He did clear that, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
9 inches.
10-9, yeah.
And then RAS of 8+, obviously. Who was it that mentioned in here? Somebody mentioned the RAS. I'm going to give him Deadfish. Thank you, buddy. He says a Jaden Higgins RAS score of 9.87 unofficial. So it says beyond the numbers, Higgins' 33 1/8 inch arms aren't a formal threshold, but exceed Christian Watson's 32 1/8, and Reed, obviously, at 30 1/8. Offering length for contested catches. His 9 1/8 inch hands are slightly smaller than Watson's, who was at 10 1/8, so 1 inch larger there for Christian Watson's hands over Jaden Higgins, but functional. Without agility or strength data, his full athletic picture awaits pro day. The verdict: Jaden Higgins' combine performance strongly meets the Packers' athletic threshold for wide receivers. He excels at height, weight, 40-yard dash, vertical, and broad jump, checking all 5 measurable boxes with 3 exceeds and 2 meets. His RAS remains untested. We just confirmed that we're going to be way ahead of 8 when it's all said and done. Way ahead of 8. Way ahead of 9, to be honest with you. And I said at number 50, Buckets Goldenberg said at number 54, Higgins could complement Green Bay's speedsters in Watson and Reed with size and leaping ability, fitting Matt LaFleur's outside receiver prototype. His 2024 stats: 87 catches, 1,183 yards receiving, and 9 touchdowns. Hint at production, but this is about athleticism, and he delivers. Until Pro Day completes his RAS, Higgins looks like a near perfect match for Gutekunst's standard, checking more than enough boxes. The question is, would Goody pull the trigger in the first round, or do you potentially see him doing what we mentioned last night and what Mike Hebring actually mentioned in our Patreon group on one of the comments about trading back in the first and making sure you get Higgins, and then you got a couple extra picks there possibly. So what do you think, boys?
I think that's the most realistic.
Yeah.
I would not be shocked at all if Goody traded back.
I'd personally love it. Bargain buck right there, they call it. You just trade back a few spots, even if you got a few of those D tackles, maybe a couple edge, maybe a cornerback that you can still snag by moving back, and then acquire, I don't know, some sort of draft collateral, depending on how far you go back, and then take Higgins there. And then you got another stab probably because you got some maybe late round pick thrown in there. I mean, that to me just makes a lot of sense, and it kind of crosses off a lot of the boxes we need here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And again, we got Jaden Higgins in the 58 spot on our big board here at PTA. So, listen, if Goody took him at 23, I wouldn't be going, what are you doing? I'd be going, okay, Goody's got a first round grade on this cat, right? Yeah. That's to me, I get more excited about that rather than pretending like I know more than an NFL general manager and going, what was he thinking? Like
he was probably thinking that
the best guy around.
My question is Is Mrs. Green going to be able to contain Tim if we hear in the upcoming days that Jaden Higgins is at Lambeau for a top 30 visit? That's what I need to know. So
It'll be like a Tim-shaped hole in the wall. He'll just like the Kool-Aid man.
oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, Mrs. G, she keeps me stable. She'll make sure that I don't destroy anything, in the house or anything. But yeah, man, I would be over the moon if that were the case. I really do. I have a feeling that he's going to be a Packer. It's not a prediction. Just a feeling.
All right.
Coach was wondering. I think it was maybe a typo, or he's asking both. He's asking, why would you like Higgins over McMillan, or would you like him over?
Let's start with that question, Tim. Pick 23. You have to take a wide receiver, and the only two choices are Jaden Higgins and Tet McMillan. Who are you taking?
Oh,
It's tough, right? Because you.
I'm going with my gut. I'm going to go with my gut. I know it sounds crazy. Drag me all you want. I would take Jaden Higgins.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong.
They're both going to be all pros, but I would go with Jaden Higgins.
You've watched tape. You've looked at the analytics just like we have. People like specific prospects. It is what it is. I'm more of a let's look at this whole huge global picture and try to remove my personal opinion. I would take Tet over Jaden, but again, if they're both on the board somehow, some way, and Goody were to just shock the world and take Jaden Higgins at the 23rd pick, I would be really excited going, Goody thinks Jaden Higgins is a better receiver than Tet McMillan. Wow. What, Jake?
I'd be dancing around the flames on Packers Twitter, enjoying every minute of
it. Roasting s'mores.
It would be a blaze for sure. Who would you take? Look, Chris, Chris said he'd take Teddy. Listen, this is a family program here, sir. What's your language? Jacob, who would you take, man?
Man, it is tough. I'd probably have to go Tet, but I could talk myself out of it, especially if that 40 time. I know I just got done talking about, but if it's more of like a guy that's 4.6 running that type of 40 versus a guy that's 6'4 running a 4.47, which I do believe he has that type of speed. That to me is a little bit of just where we're drafting and what we need specifically for this team. We need a guy that can take the top off and be kind of a bigger threat. I think I have to still go Tet, but I would be able to probably be talked into Higgins with very little.
Got it. Hey, listen, it makes sense, man. For me, with the data I've got, I would definitely go Tet McMillan, but Jaden Higgins, again, at 23, if Tet's gone and Goody takes him at 23, I'd be like, all right, well, we got a stud.
His receiving is tough.
I would much rather us get a much higher rated player on our big board at 23 and then possibly get Jaden Higgins at 54. But I really, truly believe there's a chance that he starts to pick up some steam there and maybe climbs up to, the top of the second, the bottom of the first top thing. I mean, stranger things have happened, right?
He feels like this year's Christian Watson, where people were saying Watson could be a first or a second or a third or fall out of it. And then all of a sudden somebody sneaks up and didn't we get him early second?
Like 54, man. That's what I'm saying. Like if you trade back in the first and then use some draft capital to trade back up in the second, maybe you're able to nab him there. That's possible. There's just so many different possibilities in this draft, man. It's going to be a blast. Daniel Jeremiah put a tweet out. I think we read it on the air a few days ago. It might have been a couple weeks ago now. He's like, this is going to be one of the, and I'm paraphrasing, he's like, this is going to be one of the more fun drafts that we've had in a while. Like guys, nobody knows what's going to happen in this draft. That's what's hilarious is when you put a tweet out on, like I put one out on Jahdae Barron this morning, like here's the profile over at our Patreon group. Come check it out. See what you think about Jahdae Barron. And the guy just started talking condescending and, you know how people are on Twitter. And it's like, you guys, you and your 400 followers do not know what's going to happen in this draft, right? And these self-proclaimed, there's so many draft experts on Twitter. It just blows my mind. It's like,
none of them in league offices. It's so weird.
Isn't it amazing, right? None of them could tell you what a cover 3 match was. None of them could tell you anything. Like they're the ones who, when you mention a 3 or a 5 tech, let me go Google that. And there's nothing wrong with that, but don't be on on the intrawebs acting like you're a football genius. Like, none of us have got it figured out. Why are you in here trying to talk down to people? It's just,
Yeah, we're just trying to explore the possibilities and,
Bingo.
trying to see how multiple ways this could play out. I mean, you talk about, Higgins or McMillan, right? And I go, I don't care if we miss on both of those as long as we nab a monster 3-tech.
yeah,
If,
right.
you want to make me feel better about not getting my guy Jaden Higgins, load up on the defensive side of the football and let's go to town. I understand that, with Scoot missing most of the year, that, we feel like wideout is a really big need on this football team. I don't think it's as big of a need as a lot of people make it out to be. I think, this offense continuing to grow together and get better is, what we're really looking for, along with a shutdown monster Jeff Hafley defense. That's the key to winning ball games. So I'm not fixated on grabbing a wide receiver in the first round. I don't think that's a foregone conclusion. And, I kind of feel the same way about corner. A lot of people think we should go corner first round. So, nobody's right or wrong. It's let's explore the possibilities and see how the draft really unfolds,
Yeah. Let's go to the chat. Prince says he would take McMillan. So Turtle says Higgins. J. Cole says Higgins. Chad Inc. says McMillan. Coach Lynn just in here cracking up at everybody. Chris the Casual In said Teddy. All right. Louisiana #1 Packer fan. Appreciate you swinging through. Said Higgins. Richard King, Higgins. We got more Higgins than McMillan right now.
Hey, more of his teammates went to his birthday party, guys. So it's important stuff.
That's very important. It's in the scouting report. You don't believe me? Go ask Buckets Goldenberg.
Buckets Goldenberg reporting live.
Tim going to take Jaden Higgins over his first child. So that was me last year with God. I can't remember the safety's name now. Who was it that I really liked last year? I had him over Cam Kinchins forever. That's how much I liked him. It's amazing. This is why the draft is so funny to me. We spend all this time breaking it down, and then once the draft's over, I could give a rat's ass about the other guys that didn't go to the Packers. It's like, all right, now let's just focus on the Packers. Mrs. Green standing by with the hose is what.
Oh yeah,
here, so.
That wouldn't be the first time for sure.
I know that's right. Let's see here. So Turtle says Higgins just seems more of the complete receiver. That's wild, man. That's wild. Mart 84 with a little bit different approach. We're going to do this profile later. I'm going to work on it today and get it up over on our Patreon group. I'm higher on Trey Harris than most guys. I am too. Because that's another player. I'm trying to think where we've actually got him. I'm not putting Tim in this bucket. I'm not even putting Jacob in this bucket. This is just the PTA big board actually has Trey Harris higher than Jaden Higgins. We've got him in the 51 spot. So I'd be okay with either of those guys, to be honest with you, in a second. So, yeah, there it is. Chad Eaton got it. Newbin. That's right. Tyler Newbin was my guy for sure. Yeah. Mike said, I remember. You wouldn't shut up about it. So, and Anthony says, Vontae Mack going up.
Vontae Mack, #1, baby.
Rest in peace, man. Chad, I love that dude. What a heck of an act. What's his name again? Chadwick
Boseman, yeah.
Everything I've seen him in, he was great. If you guys have not seen the Jackie Robinson movie 42, oh boy, it's so good. It's so good. So, and obviously he played Vontae Mack in Draft Day, which it's time, boys. Put that on loop. When you come to the house, the Command Central for the draft up there in Green Bay, I think I'm gonna special order a DVD and just leave it in the house so the people who own the home, they can watch it when we leave. You know what I mean? So, sure. All right, let's move on to another receiver. Jacob, you got anything else? You look like you were going to say something there a minute ago, and I cut you off, man. You good?
No, I was just going to make some stupid Draft Day quote, but time has passed.
Hey, that's life, right?
That's just life.
That is life. That's life. All right, another receiver we talked about was Emeka Egbuka. We just did the same thing. I'm not going to bore you reading the entire article. Okay, we talked about the thresholds. Let's look at what his measurements are. 6'1", 205 pounds. 40-yard dash is untested, okay, because he did not run at the combine. This is what I'm talking about. We're refining everything now. Everything that we showed you guys last night and the night before were projected, what people were saying they think he'll run. So vertical jump untested, broad jump untested. His arm length was 31.5 inches, hand size 9 5/8 inch. Wingspan was untested as well. So talked about him skipping everything, talks about the measurements and what he may or may not meet. Let's just move on to the verdict here, okay? It says beyond the numbers, Emeka Egbuka's 31.5-inch arms aren't a formal threshold, but align with Watson at 32 1/8 and Dobbs at 31 7/8. offering length for contested catches, though not elite. His 9 and 5/8 inch hands are solid, matching Reed's, aiding reliability. Without speed or explosiveness data, his athletic fit remains unclear. The verdict: Emeka Egbuka's combine performance partially meets the Packers' athletic threshold for wide receivers, satisfies the height, the weight, checking 2 of the 5 measurable boxes, but his 40-yard dash, vertical jump, broad jump, and RAS remain untested without pro day results. Somebody in the chat, go get us his current RAS, what they're projecting it, if you have it. As of March 23rd, 2025, he's 2 for 2 on completed metrics with 3 critical gaps. If Egbuka posts a sub 4.5 40, a 36 plus inch vertical, and a 10-foot plus broad jump at his pro day, consistent with his 2024 tape, 81 catches, 1,011 yards, and 10 touchdowns, he could mirror Watson's 9+ RAS profile, making him a strong number 23 candidate. His slot heavy background at 73% plus snaps inside differs from Green Bay's outside leans, but Reed's success suggests flexibility. Until pro day fills the blanks, Egbuka's fit is promising yet incomplete, close to Gutekunst's standard, but not fully checked. So, Emeka Egbuka, Jacob, what do you think, man? The big thing is that height and weight. He checks the boxes there. You look at the tape, you have a hard time believing he would not test well, right?
Yeah. Again, it's somebody I was very not excited about when the draft process started, and he's someone that's kind of grown on me as the time has passed. I still just, at 23, I would much rather us find somebody that's a little bit more of kind of a, I don't know, maybe like an athletic freak, or somebody that's just had so much production, or something of a I don't know. For some reason, I just don't like the idea of him at 23, which is probably the only place that we'll be able to get him. So I'm still a little bit hesitant with the pick, but if we did end up picking him, I'd probably give it like a B+.
Got it. There you go, Drew D, with the important information. Ohio State's pro day is the 26th. So, God, we're just 3 days away from that. Was that Wednesday? Am I thinking right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, I believe Wednesday or Thursday. So that's exciting. There you go. Chatting. Appreciate you, buddy. Egbuka, RAS 9.88 unofficial is where he's currently sitting. Tim, what do you think about Egbuka, man? And I kind of echo what Jacob said. We got him in the 28 spot on our big board. I think there's going to be much higher prospects that are on our board at the time that we pick 23. Probably won't make sense to take Emeka Egbuka.
Yeah, and I agree. I really do. Also, with the statement that Jacob made is kind of, I felt the same way, really. You know, like when we first started kind of breaking things down, starting this process, you know, this guy didn't like jump off the tape to me. He didn't, didn't get me as excited as Mr. Higgins did. You know, we'll just put it that way. But I think he's a solid player. I just don't know if he's the guy at 23. You know, if we took, T-Mac, or we took my guy Higgins, I'd be, over the moon. I don't know how excited I would be if Egbuka was the pick at 23. But we also know that, Ohio State, man, they can churn out the wide receivers that can play at the highest levels. So he's definitely not a guy you want to overlook, and someone definitely to keep an eye on if for some reason he starts falling on draft day.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Number one Packer fan says, I want a 3-tech, or whoever the Packers think is best. LOL. Amen, sir. Amen. No one here is saying we better draft a receiver at 23. We're simply talking about the possibilities, right? And listen, it would break a long standing record. You have to go all the way back to Javon Walker, which I want to say was 2003 or 2004, maybe. Somewhere
How
around
did that work out for us?
Exactly. So that was the last time the Packers took a wide receiver in the first round. And I think it's what Goody said at his presser. I think he was being honest. Like, man, we've always been able to get great value in the second round and beyond. So that's what we're going to continue to do. He didn't say we're going to continue to do that, but I think he was kind of hinting at, like, why would we – the media is the only people that think we should go spend a first-round pick on a wide receiver, right? I mean, think about when you compare first-round wide receivers across the board. I'm trying to think who's dominated, right? Who has won Super Bowls? The Kansas City Chiefs. They didn't win it with a first-round wide receiver, right? The Patriots never did, right? Hell, the Patriots, remember, they went out and got Randy Moss, and they broke all these records in the regular season and ended up getting beat, didn't even win a Super Bowl with Randy Moss on the roster. Now let's go back to here recently. People will look at the Eagles and go, A.J. Brown's a first-round pick, right, but they didn't draft him. They ended up trading for him. They got, if I remember correctly, they didn't give up a first-round pick for him. So they essentially traded maybe a second or a third, or maybe I'm sure it was a big package of picks for him. You guys correct me. They may have gave up a first-round pick in that package. I don't think they did. So it's just you gotta look at that and run it through the filter. You've also got to look at what we always talk about having the youngest team. That's awesome. It's fun being the underdog. It's fun being the youngest team in the league, still making the playoffs. But when was the last time a team that was the youngest team in the league won the Super Bowl? To the best of my knowledge, it's never happened. So I try to take all those things into consideration. You know what I'm saying?
What's funny too is that the same people that will complain about the fact that Goody never takes a wide receiver in the first round are the same people that say that Goody sucks at taking anyone in the first round. So why are you trying to say, like, dude, you got to get that first round pick? You're basically handcuffing that guy to a horrible career if that's your opinion. So let Goody take who he wants to take in the first. Let's come around in the second and third and get a couple all-pro wide receivers that come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden everybody's happy again. It'll be great.
No. Coach Lynn says Egbuka is a bit redundant to what we have already on the roster. Completely agree, Coach. Like, he's more of that. I don't want to say he's just primarily a slot. I think he can play a little outside too. And you guys know I've been very vocal about Jaden Reed being on the outside. Like, you could put him over at Z. And I'm sure you agree with that to a certain extent, Coach, with your background. But if you had to choose between an Egbuka or someone like a Jaden Higgins or a Ted McMillan, I think we would all agree, yeah, you'd rather have that big body receiver that you could just throw out there on the boundary, throw out there at X, right? And you could even mix them in on the field side if you want to throw them in at Z and do things like that. So, it's going to be interesting, though, to see what Goody does here, because it does feel like we've got a spot open. How hilarious would it be, though, guys, if we didn't draft one single wide receiver in this draft? Like, that is not out of the question. It's not.
Don't say that.
Jacob said, "I'm glad I'm not hanging out on Twitter anymore." Right? So
yeah, I mean, it's true. What if we took two receivers and they weren't anywhere near the first or second round? And Goody went there later in the draft and loaded up at other groups early.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah. SDM40 says A.J. Brown had 0 sacks and 0 interceptions in the Super Bowl, but he had a whopping 45 yards receiving. There you go. So it all comes down to what you prioritize, man. That's it. All right.
Yep.
You guys remember we were talking about Jahdae Barron last night? And, just kind of at the end of the night, we were like, this might be the dude. Remember, that was kind of our talk. Let's go in now with only combine and only pro day. I don't think they've had their pro day. They may have just that, and see how he stacks up real quick in the cornerback room. So Jahdae Barron, again, Bucket Skoldenberg with a dandy here, says everything pretty much the same format on this article as the last two, right? Here are the requirements as far as the Packers athletic blueprint. And it's comparing to people like Jair Alexander, Eric Stokes, Carrington Valentine, folks like that, right? Height, 5'11", with occasional flexibility. We've seen him go a little under before. His weight, it seems like 190 is kind of that sweet spot, 190 and above. But listen, you got a guy that's 186 or 188. We're not going to freak out, right? 40-yard dash, 4.45 seconds. Vertical jump, 36 inches. Broad jump, 10 feet. Relative athletic score of 8+, although 9+ for top 100 picks, all right? It says these thresholds aren't rigid. Alexander's 5'10" frame didn't deter Green Bay, but they reflect a baseline for prospects expected to thrive in a scheme demanding speed and physicality with Barron's combine results in hand. Let's see where he lands. All right, so here we go with Barron's combine performance. 5'10". Looks like we lost Jacob. Jacob, sir, Godspeed. And he's back. Manscaped is back. There we go.
Here's a guy.
Height, 5'10". All right. So basically 5'10" and 6/8 of an inch. Weight, 194. That checks the box. 40-yard dash, guys, 4.39. Smoked it. Vertical jump, 35 inches. Okay, that seems a little short, right? And we'll get the summary here in a second. Arm length, 29 5/8 inches. That's the one that concerns me a little bit, because Goody, he seems like he really likes arm length when it comes to corners. Hand size 9.5 inches, and of course wingspan at 73.5 inches. It says notably he skipped the agility drills, all those things we talked about, right? So here he is, how he measures up: 5'11". Barron's 5'10", falls basically a little less than a half of an inch, 0.4 of an inch short of the typical Packers mark. Alexander, also 5'10", became an All-Pro though, so it's worth mentioning there. 190 pounds at 194, obviously he checks the box. 40-yard dash, 4.45, he checks the box. Vertical jump, right there, yeah, looks like his 35 inch is going to come up a little bit short, right, as opposed to the 36 inches. Broad jump, he barely cleared it, 3 inches he cleared the threshold, and then RAS, I think he'll smoke that, to be honest with you. So beyond the numbers, Barron's 29 5/8 inch arms, among the shortest at the combine, the 4th percentile. When I seen that last night, I went, well, we got to talk about that tomorrow. Burst everybody's bubble, right? Stand out as potential concern, though not a formal threshold. Packers corners like Stokes, 31 5/8, and Valentine, 32 inches, boast longer reach, aiding in press coverage and pass disruption. Barron's speed and production might offset this, but it's a deviation from the norm. Verdict: Jahdae Barron's combine performance partially meets the Packers' athletic threshold for cornerbacks. He excels in weight, 40-yard dash, and broad jump, showcasing the speed and explosiveness Gutekunst prizes. However, his height, 5'10", and vertical fall just shy of the inferred minimums, and his RAS remains untested. Again, that's going to be fine. If the Packers select Barron at number 23, it wouldn't be unprecedented. Alexander's smaller profile, stature, and subpar vertical with elite speed worked out just fine. Barron's short arms might raise eyebrows, but his combine numbers suggest he's close enough to the athletic mold Green Bay favors. Until his pro day fills in the gaps, the picture remains incomplete for now. Barron's a viable fit, imperfect, but within striking distance of the Packers standard. What's your all's thoughts on him? Because obviously we've got Jahdae Barron in the 20 spot on our big board here.
If you're going corner in the first round, that's the dude.
Seems like it, right? Even with the reach, right, Jacob? Even with the reach being off and the vertical off a little bit, would you be okay with him, 23?
Yeah, I would. I saw a comment earlier, I believe it was from Prince or something. Yeah, he said Barron was talked about as being a better slot candidate than boundary, but I think we're good at slot after the Hobbs signing. I want an outside cover. That's the thing, is he can do both. He's
right,
very versatile, and he's done a bulk of both in each of his 3 seasons where they've switched it up, which is the reason why I said the same thing. I think when I first looked at him, I was like, well, we're pretty good at slot. Like, we got a ton of slots actually. But then when you really dive deeper into what he did and how he performed when he did those duties outside, I think I'm not worried about it personally.
Yeah. And here's the thing too. Look, when people say that about the slot, he made the shift to outside last season, and over his entire college career, he played 800 snaps at both nickel and outside throughout his whole college career. So it's pretty much, both of them cleared 800. So he's got experience in both. And last year they popped him outside. So, and again, that's at Texas, guys. That's playing SEC, talent. So it's, in a smaller conference, let's say it's a smaller school, not as much talent as like the Big Ten or the SEC, and you throw him outside and he's still, he's fine. You kind of go, yeah, but who did he go against? You're talking about him going against big time receivers, right? I don't know, man. I think the versatility too. Yeah, like So Turtle says, and one thing Goot values is versatility. I think that's spot on. So Turtles, like, you can't in one hand say, hey, this dude will probably be better in the slot even though he played outside, and then just completely dismiss the fact that you got that versatility. And he just, when you turn on the tape with him, if you guys get a chance, just go watch a highlight reel today. And just the way he plays is, I don't want to say reckless abandon, but he plays very aggressive. It's fun to watch. It really is. So, all right. Anybody got anything else on our boy Jahdae Barron here? Anything else y'all want to add? Tim, you got any closing thoughts with him? And I think he's an interesting prospect. I don't think it's like a slam dunk perfect fit, but of everyone we talked about, with him being basically surrounded by corners who have injury concerns with somebody told me we've been saying Siobhan Ravel wrong. So we've got the actual way, and this is I don't think anybody would have got this right. It is Savone Revel is how you say his name. Savone Revel. I'm sure I'll forget that by tomorrow. Like, take the H out of there. What are we doing? You know what I'm saying?
Savon.
Savon. Right, Jake? So
Sorry.
again, you've got Will Johnson above him, Tim, above Jahdae Barron as the corner on our board above him. Injury concerns the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And then right below him, you got Savon Revel.
Injury
who was
concerns.
injured last year. So
Yeah.
kind of feels like it's Jahdae Barron or no corner in the first round.
Yeah, Jahdae is that dude. You talk about, like, why am I so high on him? It's exactly what we talk about. It's the versatility factor, and it's the fact that he plays football aggressive. And we've talked about corners in the past few years. We've had issues with guys kind of, not being aggressive. And I would rather a guy, approach the game in that way than be tentative. One of the knocks we had with Quay, in the middle was it seems like he's tentative out there, and that, he's kind of diagnosing and waiting rather than shooting and, being aggressive. Well, that's one thing at a linebacker position. When you're a corner, that can play both ways. You can keep a guy in front of you all day and allow curl routes and completions and come up and make a tackle, but you're not impacting the game. If you've got a guy that's willing to get in there and jump a route, play aggressive, jam a guy at the line of scrimmage, bring that physicality to that position, I'm all for it.
Yeah.